Good morning, and welcome to Wellspring. It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood, isn't it? A little warmish, but it's good. I'm happy to see every one of you here today. I am known as Shirley Angel Love, so I welcome you here, and may you receive exactly what you came for. And those of you on Zoom, welcome, and those of you on recording, welcome. And we're going to mute you for a little while, those of you on Zoom. We're glad you're here. We have a few announcements, as always. Early Birds meets Sunday mornings at 9:30 by way of Zoom, or sometimes in the fellowship hall next door. And we're studying a new book called Who Dies? And this is about us learning how to live consciously and how to lay down our bodies consciously, but we still live on. And today we're blessed to have you, Randy, as our speaker. Next week will be Brian Kleitz, or Kurtz, I think it is. And on the 28th will be Dr. Edward. Our Thursday evening group meets at 6:30, either here in the fellowship hall or on Zoom. And we're watching and discussing wonderful little different videos about different subjects. And there's always a good conversation afterwards. It comes from the Gaia channel, if you get that at home. That's a good one. And we're still considering building a labyrinth out here at the end of the pergola. It requires some rocks. We do have a few so far, and they are to be about 6 inches in diameter. So bring some rocks so we can get that thing built. And then we're going to have our beloved Rebecca's celebration of life this coming Thursday, and I think it's at 6:30. And then they're speaking here of Brian Kurtz. Will be here this week, June 21st through the 23rd for healing sessions. And the love offering is $125. And that is 90-minute sessions. So that's pretty good for 90 minutes, isn't it? He's an intuitive healer and empath, and his service is the common thread in his life's work, this service. There are There are 3 slots still open in case you would like to have a healing session. And Judy has something to say about that? Okay.
Good morning. I got a email from Elizabeth Moore, and her partner, Bob Riley, made his transition on Friday night. Bob and Elizabeth were members of this congregation for many, many years with Sam and Nancy, and then when we had our change of directorship, they decided that CSL met their needs better. Bob was responsible for us purchasing our facilities and paying off our mortgage. So we are debt-free in terms of mortgage, which is a real bonus to this congregation. So we're going to hold Elizabeth in the light, and most of you, when I look at the new faces out there, most of you have never met them, but they were wonderful supporters of Wellspring in the early stages. Thank you. They had a retirement. They were living in a retirement center between Denver and what's Colorado Springs. Yeah, so they were in a facility where his needs were met. So yeah, yep.
We loved him so much. It's hard for us to let our loved ones go, isn't it? Okay, so last but not least, prayer time. On Tuesday, the 3 different New Thought fellowships get together, their ministers and their practitioners, and they do prayer for your prayer requests. And that is on Tuesday, and it's at 4:15, and that's a good time to just be quiet and settle in, and they're praying with you. And if you haven't put in a request, well, you can also pray for others. Okay, so right now we will have an invocation. How precious it is to gather together and to know that Mother, Father, God, angels, archangels, ancestors, beings of light, and ascended masters are here. They are always around us and even within us. So we welcome them today. We acknowledge their presence, and I acknowledge the presence of every one of you here, every one of you on Zoom, and everyone connecting by recording. We are blessed, we are grateful, and our hearts are open today to receive through music, through the reading, and through the words of our beloved brother Randy. So bring yourself totally present here now. For this hour, you have nothing else to do. Just be here, relax, and receive. And so it is. Okay, so I think it's time for that song of joy. If you'd be happy to stand and sing with us, that would be wonderful. I am the thinker who thinks the thoughts that changes the things that shape my life. I am the thinker who thinks the thoughts, power to change my life. You ask me, who am I? I am wisdom, I am light. I am more than meets the eye. I cannot be defined. And the thinker who thinks the thoughts, changes the things that shape my life. I am the thinker who thinks the thoughts, the power to change my life. You ask me, who am I? I am beauty, I am joy. I am more than meets the eye. I cannot be defined. I am the thinker who thinks the thoughts, changes the things that shape my life. I am the thinker who thinks the thoughts, the power to change my life. Meets the eye, cannot be defined. I am the thinker who thinks the thoughts, changes the things that shape my life. I am the thinker who thinks the thoughts, the power to change my life. The power to change my life. Have the power to change my life. Wonderful. Thank you so much. You may be seated. And so now it's time to read our vision, our mission, and our affirmation. If you can't see from up here, you have one of these. You could read. Okay. Our vision: to elevate spiritual consciousness in our world. Our mission: to support individual spiritual quests through celebration, study, counsel, loving fellowship, and service. And our affirmation: with summer's full heat upon us, we affirm the cool breeze of spirit flowing in us, through and around us. We know that we are supported by spirit in all that we do, and so it is. Okay, and then we're going to have wonderful music by Randy. Yeah, I think we're going to. Yeah.
Good morning. Thank you for letting me know about Bob and Elizabeth. They were neighbors of mine and wonderful people, so I want to offer up this song to both of them and all of their loved ones.
wonderful. Thank you so much. It's always a pleasure to have you here. Okay. So I've quickly chosen a reading from the Science of Mind magazine, and it is called This Is Me, This Is Us. Don't ask yourself what the world needs. Ask yourself what makes you come alive, and go and do that, because what the world needs is people who have come alive. And that's by Howard Thurman. And the next one is by Ernest Holmes. We exist for the purpose of self-expression. The infinite has already implanted within us an instinctive intuition, which is the spiritual knowledge of good. Our whole growth results from an inner awakening. We have all had the experiencing of wanting to hide parts of ourselves. Or maybe we have been told we were just too much. You know, too loud, too quiet, too tall, too skinny, too straight, too queer, too this, too that. Yet get the picture? You get the picture? As a result of the too much, we try to fly just below the radar to hide or erase key parts of ourselves. Or we slip into the habit of apologizing for being who we are. I believe our own authentic expression is what the world needs now, more than ever. Coming alive, as Howard Thurman advises in the quote above, can look different for each of us. It may be applying for the new job, writing that book, stepping into that new relationship. It may be letting go of things that don't serve us, or engaging in activities and experiences that stir joy and passion in us. A funny thing happens when we are willing to be our authentic, unapologetic, and uncompromising selves. We open the door for others to do the same. Can you imagine a world where everyone is free to operate on the level of their most authentic expressions? A world where everyone is able to come alive. No more apologizing. No more hiding. No more playing small. This is me. This is all of us. And so, blessings to our speaker, Randy Granger. Would you welcome him?
Thank you, Shirley. What a perfect reading that you chose. You know, I love how Spirit unfolds all the time. The first thing that you said was that it was a wonderful day in the neighborhood. What prompted you to say that? Did that just come? Because that's actually the title of my talk. I was thinking, oh no, Crespin. Anne Frank, she said, in the long run, the sharpest weapon of all is a kind and gentle spirit. Now, when you think about that, at its core, the quote recognizes the potential for kindness and gentleness to bring about a meaningful and positive change. It implies that in the grand scheme of life, the impact of kindness and gentleness far outlasts the immediate effects of force and aggression. Kindness and gentleness are a superpower, and they have the ability to win hearts, to build trust, and create lasting bonds between people. It's built into our DNA, this sense of cooperation, to get along, and to look at each other through the eyes of our Creator, of God. You know, Gandhi, he wanted to clarify his concept of passive resistance against British laws that had been targeting Indian people. And he didn't like the notion of passivity, so he asked his people to come up with a name for it. And his nephew, he suggested a word called satyagraha, which translated to firmness in a good cause. Gandhi adapted that idea, but he coined the word satyagraha, which means loosely truth force. But his biographers, they actually say that satyagraha means not to be strong with the strength of brute force, but the strength of the spark of God. Gentle giants indeed. From the suffragettes to the civil rights workers, Nelson Mandela, Rosa Parks, Reverend Martin Luther King Jr., Desmond Tutu, so many Native American leaders, and all of the oppressed, we have examples of changing other people's minds by being rooted in truth instead of the force. This is indeed the spark of God. Now, Fred Rogers, who I'll be talking about today, the beloved host of the children's program, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, he appeared before the United States Senate Subcommittee on Communication in 1969. Now, he was there standing up for PBS and the Corporation for Public Broadcasting after then President Nixon proposed cutting their budget by 20 million, cutting it in half. Fred Rogers traveled to Washington, D.C. to argue against the budget cuts and explain why public television was vital for the United States, but especially for its children. And his gentleness and compassion and passion even moved his staunch opponent. While giving testimony to Congress, he showed his mild demeanor, his gentleness, his kindness was so powerful that in the testimony that Senator John Pastore, his most staunch critic at the time, in his response to it at one point said, "I'm supposed to be this pretty tough guy, you know, but for the first time in 2 days, I have goosebumps listening to Fred Rogers." There was another voice that was behind Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood scripts, the voice of Fred Rogers' chief consultant and mentor, Dr. Margaret McFarland, a highly regarded child psychologist. They met regularly to discuss child development theory so that the scripts would authentically reflect the real concerns and feelings of children. Now, for the millions of adults who grew up watching him on television, Fred Rogers represented the most important human values of respect, of compassion, of kindness, of integrity, and humility. On Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, his show, created some 50 years ago, he was the epitome of simple, natural ease, and yet rooted in conviction. And if you haven't seen that movie starring Tom Hanks where he plays Mr. Rogers, it's definitely worth watching. Mr. Rogers took intense care in shaping each episode of the program. He insisted every word, whether spoken by a person or a puppet, would be scrutinized closely because he knew that the children, the preschool age boys and girls who made up most of his audience, tend to hear things literally. There were no accidents on Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. He took great pains not to mislead or confuse children. And his team of writers, they joked all the time that his on-air manner of speaking amounted to a distinctive language that they called Freddish. Fundamentally, Freddish anticipated the ways listeners might misinterpret what was being said. For instance, there was one scene where a hospital nurse was inflating a blood pressure cuff, and she originally had said, I'm going to blow this up now. Well, Fred made them redub that entire line saying, I'm going to puff this up with some air now. Because he knew that blow it up, that the children listening might put their hands to their ears, afraid of a loud explosion, and he didn't want kids to cover up their ears and miss what would happen next. Now that is being gentle. Imagine if we could use that amount of care when telling others about our concerns or our issues. Me, I speak Fredish. Not fluent yet, but I'm getting there. Fred Rogers spoke to the children in the same whether he was on TV or off. He truly met them where they were. What a gift we can offer if we meet others where they are, exactly where they are, without judgment, without likes or thumbs up or down like we do on social media, but with patience and compassion and empathy. Now, Fred Rogers had 3 rules for success in life. Now listen closely. The first one is to be kind. Now, the second one is to be kind. And the third one is to be kind. Fred Rogers said, "This is what I give. I give an expression of care every day to each child to help them realize that they are unique. I end the program by saying, you made this day a special day by just being you. There's no person in the whole world like you, and I like you just the way you are." Now, I can recall as a child watching him and hearing him say, "I like you just the way you are." No adult had ever said that to me before, and it was usually, go outside, go play, get out of here. Why can't you be like your brother? I like you just the way you are. How powerful. And he said, I feel that if we in public television can only make it clear that feelings are mentionable and manageable, we will have done a great service for mental health in this country. He said, we are trying to give children positive ways to deal with their feelings. Each of us leaves a small part of ourselves every time we interact with each other, whether it's the cashier, the waitress, the barista, other drivers, shoppers, delivery people, UPS and mail carriers. We leave a dusting of spiritual pollen. I know I've been planting, I've been watching all my flowers and plants, and I see and I always think about that when the butterflies go from one place to the other. Spiritual pollen that leaves a residue based on our behavior and kindness, or maybe lack of. That residue is a chain reaction, and it's an invitation, and like Fred Rogers, it gives space and opportunity for others to join us. We can ask ourselves this important question: what impression do I want to leave with the world? What impression do I want to leave with others? What part of this chain reaction am I playing? When I was a young boy growing up in southeast New Mexico, we used to drive over to this nearby town called Seminole, Texas. You know it, Barry. And during the summer, they would sometimes let you pick vegetables or fruit. There was one of those you pick 'em kind of places. And so every once in a while, we would drive over, my family, and I love peaches. Boy, do I love peaches. And I would volunteer to climb up that little ladder to get the riper peaches. And at first, I would just grab the peaches and make sure they're ripe, and bring them down and stick them in the bucket. And of course, they were all broken skin and bruised by the time I got them down. And so the farmer, bless him for doing this, pulled me aside and said, you have to be gentle with those peaches. Like a baby bird, you have to grab them and bring them down and put them in the bucket, And so that taught me a really valuable lesson. So if we begin with the intention of gentleness with others, we have a better chance of harvesting kindness, mildness, and a more productive outcome. Whereas coming in with aggression and the need to change someone's mind or pointing at them, we can easily pierce the skin, so to speak, at the beginning. I find it easier to change people's hearts first than their minds. It's not easy, but you act with that spark of God, the satyagraha. Amelia Earhart said, a simple act of kindness throws out roots in all directions, and the roots spring up and make new trees. When you love yourself, you're free to love others. And by free, I mean free of insecurity, free of attachment, free of fear, knowing that everyone is our mirror. Everyone and everything is us, pushed out and reflected back to us. Sometimes it can be a challenge to extend that love to those who we disagree with, maybe, or who we fear, or maybe we haven't forgiven. But when you positively, like the song that we did a little earlier, which is a great little song. I love the graph. Who chose those graphics, by the way? Nowhere else have I seen Rodin's Thinker next to Homer Simpson. And so I noticed that, you. I loved it. It was a great song because when we positively change what we believe and what we think, what we feel, and what we assume and what we imagine, we'll find that our relationships also change to reflect those mental changes. And there's no greater mental shift that you can achieve in all your relationships than to realize that everyone and everything is our mirror. When you do, you know there's no one to change but you. I have friends who talk to me about relationships, and I always like to gently point out, what do you think the common denomination is with all your relationships? Oh, well, they're bad people. I'm like, no, even more basic. You. We are the common denominator in all of our experiences and all of our relationships. Every interaction we have with others is a chance for self-empathy, for some grace, for connection and wonder with ourselves and with others. There's this poem that I came across by the Reverend Bob Lucan, and it highlights what we're talking about today in the readings and in the songs. And it's a beautiful poem that I came across. It's called If Not For You. I'll read it now. It says, if not for you, there would be a place of emptiness in the heart of God. If not for you, all the good that you have done would still need doing. If not for you, the spark of your ideas would not have ignited a fire in others. If not for you, the key roles that you have played in life's drama would remain unfilled. If not for you, at least one person would not have awakened to his or her dreams. If not for you, your triumphs could not be examples to and inspire others. If not for you, someone who needed love would have never received it. If not for you, life would have been shortened or never existed. If not for you, the song of life would have missed a beat. If not for you, your gifts would remain ungiven. If not for you, another might have suffered in your place. If not for you, someone would have no path to follow. If not for you, there would be one less smile, one less laugh, and one less hug. If not for you, there would be less mystery in the world. If not for you, an animal might be homeless in a garden left unplanted. Speaking of someone who has 5 turtles in the garden, I recognize that. If not for you, someone would be missing. You have always made a difference. Who you are is important every day. You are the face and the heart and the soul of God. So I invite you to gently embrace those words into your spirit and see yourself worthy of great love. Nothing about your life is an accident. Believing and knowing that we are a part of a divine design allows us to be gentle and compassionate through love. When Ernest Holmes wrote about this kind of love, he wrote, "Love is the eternal flame of the universe. While elusive, it pervades everything it fires. It fires the heart. It stimulates the emotion. It renews the soul and proclaims the spirit." There we go. So centered in this love, disturbances of the world, they pass around us. And so we can indeed declare every day, the first thing, it is a beautiful day in the neighborhood, in the world. And so it is. Thank you. Let's get into a nice meditative space, and If you can put your feet on the floor, that's great. Close your eyes if you're comfortable doing that. And I'm going to read a way that I like to start my mornings. Take what resonates with you and leave out what doesn't. But first, just breathe in and hold that breath. And breathe out. Being thankful that there's a power within us that breathes without our direction, that loves us enough to keep us alive, to keep us nourished by the food we eat, the water we drink, turns it into bones and muscles and smiles and hugs. In the mornings, I like to say, I commit to making this day the best day of my life, regardless of what is put on my plate and regardless of the state of my body, because every experience is a positive lesson from which I can learn. Today I will have no thoughts, attitudes, or actions that are hurtful to others or myself. Peace, be still. We uplift all around us, calling in the highest truth of life, which is love. Calling in ancestors' wisdom, we take a moment to bless this planet with a blanket of love. All of its people, all its creation, the various nations, all its leaders, the incredible diversity of creation and life, and the profound realization that this is all rooted and established in the One. And for all of this and the healing energy at work in our lives today and every day, we say thank you, Spirit, God. All is well, and so it is. I'm going to share with you a song that I think really highlights the sentiment and the season. You belong among the wildflowers, and you belong in a boat out at sea. Sail away, kill off the hours, and you belong somewhere you feel free. Run away, find a love, go away somewhere all bright and new. I have seen no other who compares with you. You belong among the wildflowers. You belong in a boat out at sea. You belong with your love on your arm, and you belong somewhere you feel free. Run away, go find a love, and run away, let your heart be your guide. You deserve the deepest of cover, and you belong in that home by and by. You belong among the wildflowers, and you belong somewhere close to me, far away from your trouble and worries, and you belong somewhere you feel free. You belong somewhere you feel free. somewhere you feel free. Thank you.
What a blessing. That message really could have filled you with so much love today, so I hope that you have received it that way. Maybe we could thank you again. Okay, so now it's time to share our offerings. Thank you, Judy. Judy's coming forth with the basket that you can place your gift in. As we acknowledge and receive our virtual and in-person gifts, we give great thanks for the offerings already given and those we will be receiving, because we know that giving and receiving are both part of the one flow. We affirm that we are also a part of that flow. We bless these gifts and know they are multiplied throughout our community. Thank you, Judy. Well, I want to thank those who have made this, our time together, wonderful today. Thank you, Barry. Thank you, Randy. Thank you, Edwin. Thank you, Cleona. And thank you, Judy. And who, Edwin, Edwin, yes. Thank you, thank you. Okay. And we'd also like to thank those that are out in Zoom land, and here, all of you that are here in the sanctuary. And lastly, we encourage you on Zoom to stay a while and share with one another. And those of you that are here, we can go over into the fellowship hall and share some personal time together. Okay, so if you'll please stand, we'll say our benediction, and then we'll gather holding hands in the center of the aisle. Spirit in the midst of us is mighty. Joy, peace, and eternal life are our true nature and flow through us into the world, and so it is.